Views and opinions expressed within the following program are solely those of the individual. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of Shaw TV.
Hey Calgary, today is Thursday, November 1st. I'm Kevin Chorney, and this is Calgary Now. With the decline of locally owned and operated independent film retail stores, it seems Netflix and the plethora of free downloading sites have won out. While Hollywood continues to churn out hits that many still line up to see, independent films have a harder time making a buck, even though the widespread accessibility of the internet can mean a bigger audience. So what's an independent filmmaker to do? Now, it used to be that independently owned movie theaters were the only way to see those must-see flicks in our city. Before long, however, corporate movie cineplexes sprouted up throughout our city, relegating the once jam-packed, independently owned theaters to more of an art house theater role. Nowadays, with the advent of IMAX screenings, luxury cineplexes, and the media beast that is the internet, the art house cinema is at real risk of going the way of the drive-in theater. This summer, the Uptown Theater shut its doors for good, and word has it that the near 50-year-old Globe Cinema is set to close at the end of the month. So what does this mean for the film scene and culture of Calgary? My guests and I are all set to explore just that. We are live and taking your calls and questions, so by all means, give us a shout at 403-539-6710 or shoot us a tweet at Calgary Now Show. Of course, we're on Facebook as well, so you can get at us there as well. Stay with us.
Local independent theater and filmmaking in Calgary has to become a more major part of this city. For a city of 1 million people that has a very, very small art scene, unless you're painting pictures of cowboys and horses, is actually pretty sad. We call ourselves a major metropolitan center now. We're Canada's cultural capital for 2012. For what? There really isn't enough here in order for us to call ourselves a major cultural capital. Maybe we got chosen because it's the 100-year anniversary of Calgary, but I do think that more of the percentage of local tax dollars need to be put towards local theater and independent filmmaking because it grows us as a center. We can't have a city based on one thing being cowboys and horses and the Stampede. Stampede is just, it's overwhelming. It's 10 days of the year and we put all our money towards it. It's actually quite sad.
Welcome back. Tonight joining me is Ben Chewy, a man all about town and all-around film enthusiast, Steve Schrader, the executive director of the Calgary International Film Festival, and Jonathan Joffe, the director of the Burlesque Assassins, which was actually shot right here in Calgary and recently had its premiere. Guys, thanks a bunch for being here.
You're welcome.
Now, Ben, tell me about yourself briefly.
Well, I work at SAIT in the film and TV department, and I run a blog called Ben Chewy Love Movies, and also I write for a Toronto entertainment blog.
Busy guy.
Yeah,
and you do love
fun.
movies, don't you? Truly.
I love movies since I was a kid.
Well, that's great. That's great. How about yourself, Stephen?
I've been the executive director at the Calgary International Film Festival since this January. So we just went through our first, well, the first festival where I've been there in September, so ended 3 weeks ago. And longtime film buff, fascinated by all these topics.
Great, great. Perfect guest, it sounds like.
Thank you.
Now, Jonathan, your film.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
The Burlesque Assassins, it's an Alberta-based project. It's burlesque performers turned spies, taking on bad guys. And it was my first feature film. I've been a filmmaker for many years, and shot 2011, got it all together, and we premiered in 2012 at the Plaza Theatre in Calgary. And ironically, I know Ben through working at
it's a pretty small community. Yeah. You guys kind of all know each other one way or another, it seems.
Well, I know him since he was a kid.
That's cool. Perfect. Now, guys, I want to get right into it. These independent builders the theaters that are closing as of late, you know, like we touched in the intro there, the Metro, unfortunately, looks to be going the same way as the Uptown, Plaza being the only, the Globe's closing, the Plaza being the only theater remaining. What value do these theaters bring to our city?
Well, they bring diversity. Diversity in the term that it's not all your regular studio-made films, but also international films that you would not see normally, or now you can't even see at a Blockbuster
so
or
it's a niche
Rogers.
market.
Yeah.
You get something there you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Stephen, what would you comment on that?
Well, they also tend to be the home for a range of film festivals, and I don't just mean the Calgary International Film Festival, but
Yep.
we have some very excellent other film festivals, slightly smaller. We've got the Calgary Underground Film Festival, which has been really growing in audience in recent years.
Sure.
Fairy Tales Film Festival. There's Hidden Gems, which is Indian films. Just to name a few, and also we have a Cinematheque now. We've had for the past several years, so showing a lot of important films. And you know, a festival like ours, you know, we also work at the Cineplex Eau Claire, right? So we also work in the mainstream theaters. But a lot of the smaller film festivals, they're going to really have a hard time. Having places to work if we lose the Globe,
Right.
and
So
having lost the Uptown.
It sounds like these theaters are lending themselves to, well, the fabric, the culture of our city. Would you agree with that?
You know, having a local theater where you can show a film,
Yeah.
it's vital to the actual local film community. Because, you know, if it's all Cineplexes and big chain box theaters, those guys, it is not worth their time to rent out a theater for a one-off premiere of a local film or a cast and crew screening.
Yeah.
I can't go to Chinook Center and rent a theater, no matter what. I mean, they'd want 10 grand or something, right? It would be
Just
a-
like that.
it'd
So
be a
it's way out
disaster.
of reach to begin with.
So yeah, having something like the Plaza, like the Uptown, like the Globe, those things are, it's vital, because we don't have that. Where are we going to show our own movies? Have the party at someone's house and have 150 cast and crews crowd around a screen.
Might be a
It
good
just
time, but
doesn't
clearly
work.
not the end game goal, I wouldn't think.
You know, we're in movies. We want to show a movie on a screen. That's what people want to see, and you know, we can sell tickets and get back some of our money and have an event and have the press there, have the public there, have the cast and crew there, have a party, celebrate, but not if you don't have a screen.
So let me ask you this then: with the closures, how does that dissuade, or does it dissuade, potential local filmmakers from making movies in Calgary?
Well, okay, there's a lot of reasons not to be a filmmaker, and where are you going to screen is probably not the biggest one of them. People, I mean, it's a crazy thing to get into. It's a fool's errand, but you know, I would say it's just hard on the community to not have that. The Plaza's been great to me. I've screened there several times. They've always been fantastic. I know they had a bit of a scare where they thought they weren't going to be able to remain open, and that was, you know, upsetting to everyone. Now it sounds like they're okay, but now we're hearing that the Globe is closing down, the Uptown was in all sorts of issues.
Yeah.
Would have been fantastic for us to screen at the Uptown, because we were too big to be at the Plaza. We had over 600 tickets sold. So, you know, there we could have done 2 screens and party right there, and you know, it just would have been a much better event. But
yeah, of course.
you know, the Uptown couldn't do it, couldn't remain sustainable. So here we are.
Because I was telling you before, the Uptown was basically a studio production show house that I went to see the original Star Wars in 1977 with both balcony seats and the bottom. So it's like 700 people, plus all the people that got in, they oversold. We were sitting on the aisles and not one were willing to go away. They were trying to refund tickets. Nobody.
Is that right?
So they had to go next door to the cafe and borrow chairs for people to sit on the aisle.
You don't look that old then. You're talking Star Wars. Wow.
Yeah, and that was fun. And now filmmakers, I think we all know that you have to find places to show. So you have to go to Canyon Meadow or University, everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and too, I think it just should be said that there's something happens collectively, right? When you lose several, and it's not just in Calgary that these challenges are happening. So, like, you know, a filmmaker like Jonathan, it's true, like maybe there's always a way to work, there's always a way to be innovative and find some other way to premiere your film or find a place to screen it. But cumulatively, the more we lose, not just in Calgary, but across the country, you know, and in the States for that matter, I think they're having similar troubles. Yeah. You know, it becomes just the environment, the ecology overall becomes harder. It's not just about a one screening.
You know, maybe it takes away from our potential identity of being, you know, a hub for this sort of thing. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with me. We're going to take a quick break here, folks. We'll be back in just a minute. Now, do you still go see movies in the theater? When's the last time you saw a film downtown? We'd love to hear from you. 403-539-6710. Stay with us.
One of the biggest problems with the closures of independent movie houses and video distributors in the city of Calgary is that it's going to feed into the Calgarians' already really dismissive attitude towards themselves and towards their art and towards our independent filmmaking community here. We already don't see ourselves as players on the big stage, where that is not the case. We are big players on the stage. We have major productions in Alberta and in Calgary in particular, and it's unfortunate that Calgarians are losing some of the grassroots things that are there to remind us that we really do have something to give to the world and to show in terms of our creativity in this city.
Hey Calgary, welcome back. Tonight we're discussing the closure of independent film theaters in downtown Calgary. Now, Calgary was nominated, we are recognized as the Cultural Capital of Canada for 2012. Now, I understand a lot of foreign language films are shown at the independent art house theaters. I don't see how that could be. How does that doesn't coincide to me. Why the closures? If these are the theaters that are trying to get those films, some recognition, and here we are, the Cultural Capital of Canada, do you guys also not see the disconnect? Ben, what do you think?
Well, I think in the beginning, Calgary was big for the Chinese community as well. We had 3 or 4 dedicated cinemas that show Chinese movies every night. It's the video that killed it. It's the video. Yeah.
The pirated video.
No, and also rentals, video rentals.
Okay,
because that was in the 80s, 90s when the videos start coming in.
You concur,
as
Steve?
the mainstream.
On that point, I do. I think also it's important to know. I mean, it's never just one thing. I mean, you could, you could make a study of what each individual closure case was. I think I would caution people not to necessarily draw like one straight line, what might seem like the obvious straight line, right? Oh, these things are closing. We're the cultural capital. We say we care about these things. Where are the audiences? I mean, we can have a conversation about where the audiences are, but also in some specific, there's technological hurdles. I mean, whether or not there's more to the story, the Plaza certainly did talk about a real challenge that they and others are facing in terms of an expensive switch to new digital technology. The other thing is, real estate is a piece of this too. Yeah. I mean, we cannot separate what's going on, the land value, the real estate value of these buildings from this. I mean, if somebody, even if something's a successful movie theater, if the building's worth a lot more than it is as a going concern movie theater, then there's an economic piece. It's not just one thing.
Well, let me shift gears then a little bit. Should public money maybe be thrown at some of these theaters?
That's a loaded topic. I will say one thing that you brought up, which is the digital conversion. So now there's this really expensive conversion to bring in these cinema quality digital projectors. This isn't your home projector or something you would have at the office for PowerPoint. These are super high-end projectors. They have beautiful images, and it's a really expensive process to convert a theater to one of these digital projectors. But once it's done, everything gets way easier because now, as a filmmaker in the 80s, if you wanted to screen, you had to make a physical film print, which is a hugely expensive process.
Sure. And
there was one print that came in like a series of these metal canisters, and you had to ship it around. And now, it's data. You can move it around. It's a disc. You can burn it on your home computer and take it and screen at a festival. Yeah. So there's this hurdle to get over of this conversion. But once the conversion is done, we're good to go for a decade of having new technology that everyone has access to. So it's a good leveling.
So maybe it's just a matter of time. As technology becomes more affordable, like every other walk of life.
Yeah, but
potentially we could see independent theaters as well. Go ahead.
But will they come? That's the problem. Film festival is a one night, one showing of a particular film. Now, in terms of real theater, they want 2 weeks of showing every night and day of the same movie. Can you get that audience? That's the problem.
To go back to your earlier question about whether public money should be thrown at some
I thought everyone was going to dodge it.
Yeah, well, no, I'll take it on. I'll take it on. Sure. Maybe. I think though that we have to understand that it's very hard for any level of government, municipal or otherwise, to invest money in a private for-profit business. So, you know, the Globe has been run by Landmark Cinemas, and they rent from a private landlord. Like none of these movie theaters that we're talking about were publicly run. I mean, unlike, say, compare it to the world I used to work in before I came to cinema, live theater, right? Almost all live theater that you see in Calgary, except for like the big dinner theaters, are partially publicly funded, not-for-profit organizations, right? That are totally set up as not-for-profits. Right. To have public money go into anything like that, you really need it run on a not-for-profit model, because you need to be investing in something that has a mandate to operate it that way. How could the city justify throwing tens of thousands of dollars at one of these art house, privately run art house movie theaters when it's still within the owner's right to close up shop when, you know, it's a business question for them, right?
Yeah,
so,
and I would agree with you. Yeah.
There are theaters. There have been cases around the world where old historic theaters have been taken over by not-for-profit societies who've had gotten then grants and other sources of investment to refurbish them.
Seems feasible, sure.
It can be. I mean, running a movie theater, any bricks and mortar enterprise is, you know, risky. Yes. But that might be one model some people have suggested. But it's not clear that that's going to be a solution on the immediate horizon.
Maybe something that should be discussed further.
Maybe should be discussed further.
I want to talk about the internet, guys. Now, I guess I'll start with you, Jonathan. As a filmmaker, is the internet going to help your progress or hinder it? Because there's definitely a lot to think about there.
This is a billion-dollar question. In the right immediate future, piracy is a humongous problem.
Sure.
In the grand scheme of things, I have a faith that a few years down the line, things will start to sort themselves out. But everything has flipped in the last, 5 years ago, you could take your little zombie movie and go to some video distributor in the US and say, hey, I made this thing, let's put a good cover on the box, and what can we do? Yeah, we can get you $100,000 in DVD sales.
Yeah.
All the money that, if you think about all the Blockbusters and the corner video stores and mom and pop video stores, they're gone. That is all that rent that was being paid, all the staff that was being paid, those physical DVDs that were being made and shipped and rented. That's a ton of money that has just been sucked out of the industry. Yeah. And in some ways, things are good because you don't need to have a physical store. You don't need to have a physical copy that you ship around. But so that reduces your cost of that DVD. It's now just a piece of data, and it's much cheaper. But so much of it is going to piracy. I mean, if you go to 50 of your friends, if people of our age go to 50 of your friends and you say, what percentage of your clothing is stolen? They'll say none. If you say, what percentage of your meals do you dine and dash? None. Do you fuel up and leave? Did you steal your house? Absolutely not. But if you talk about...
In that context.
If you talk about the films they're watching, the music they're listening to, video games, programs that they're using on the computer, all of a sudden, well, it's not a physical thing, so does it count? And I mean, I get it, but at the same time, for a guy like me...
Not helping your cause at all.
I was just saying to these guys, I spent $6 on a cup of tea today, which was nuts. And I know that there's people who will not spend $6 on my movie that I spent 2 years of my life on.
Yeah, that's gotta be frustrating.
And they're not bad people, right? I mean, everyone has their reasons, and it happens. But
I'm gonna cut you off. I understand we have a caller. Shyla, are you there? Hello, Shyla.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for calling. What's your question?
I would just like to know, why should indie films be shot in Calgary and not, say, Toronto?
That's a fair question.
Why shouldn't they be shot in Calgary?
Well,
we got stories to tell here. I don't particularly want to have to leave my family to be a filmmaker, and there's great crews here.
No, I also think that it's important. Are we moving towards putting ourselves, on the map? We want to grow as a city as much as we can. I think, film and art is part of that. So why would we ship over to Toronto, which existed there for, some time, when you're right, when we could do it right here?
Well, and they're being shot. Indie movies are being shot everywhere. Literally everywhere that you want to look. whether or not we think they should be shot here, there, anywhere, they're going to be shot everywhere.
Yeah,
in increasing numbers, which is really
well. There's
really
a lot
great.
of productions that are already shot here as it is. Hell on Wheels, I think, is shot in Alberta,
totally.
and Heartland as well.
Yeah, and the films, if we're shot here, it's our voices. It's regional. It's what concerns us.
Yeah.
It's not basically a studio film that's not about regional. It's for the whole world to see. This is more independent, like the spirit of independence.
It's us. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And shooting's about, I mean, these guys could speak better to it than I could, but shooting's also about locations. I mean, in a lot of cases it is, at least. We don't have, this is not just necessarily a generic place, right? We have, not every place in the world looks like every other place in the world, and not everybody has the same things to offer. I mean, indie filmmakers from here, of course, it's easier for them to shoot here, better for them to shoot here.
Sure.
And also, it's wonderful when productions come in from elsewhere to shoot here. So that's great cross-pollination, great experience building.
Shyla, I trust that answered your question. Just back to the internet, guys. Now Netflix, with the licensing issues, the regional licensing that's involved. I know it's not regulated by the CRTC, but it does open up a lot of room for Canadian content. Now, is that not helping the process a little bit? Maybe not so much for a filmmaker like yourself, but what about Canadian content, local content in general?
I phoned them and complained.
Is that right?
Yeah. I said, you make me pay, $8 a month. I want to see more Canadian film. And they went, well, everything costs money, and it's, not a lot of people wants to see Canadian films. Yeah, we just want to put one or two flick on. So I went through.
Well, good for you. I think a lot of people probably applaud that.
Not a lot of Canadian films that's worth seeing on there.
That may be true, although I also find that for me Netflix is an additive experience. I like Netflix.
It's okay.
But I haven't. I also download movies on iTunes, and I also go to the movies, and I also go to film festivals, and I travel to go to film festivals, and I haven't made a spreadsheet on this, but this will surprise my friends. But I don't go to movies and movie theaters less with Netflix. I just watch more movies. Maybe that makes me unusual. But I would say, in terms of Canadian content, I've actually probably watched more Canadian film than I otherwise would have, even with the selection being what it is. I just watched The Ritual, Canadian horror film. The Ritual a couple nights ago. I watched a great film. Anyways, lots of good Canadian content that I probably wouldn't have seen otherwise through Netflix. So it could be better, I think Netflix is a double-edged sword. I think
it is as well. Yeah.
I think people like me, and I know I'm not the only one, who actually troll Netflix all the time and see certain titles come up, and I eventually get around to watching them, and I know I wouldn't have seen them in the movie theater or in any other way.
It's true. It's true.
So.
Also helps now, the Calgary Public Library has not every title, but a lot of titles available, so we can actually go like a video store, borrow for free, and bring it back in a week.
I want to talk about the CRTC a little bit, because to me it's a bit of a head scratcher that the CRTC mandates television, like for example HBO Canada, and yet these big multi-Cineplex, Odeon, your Empire Theaters, there's no mandate at all from the CRTC there, which would help get exactly what we're talking about onto the main stage.
I think that's a historical thing, though, where the CRTC was brought in to regulate things that were broadcast. And a theater isn't broadcast. You go to see it, it's there, you're done. So, I realize that now everything's crossing, and what's a movie, and what's internet, and what's television, and it's all getting confused, and boundaries will have to be redefined. But I think that's just a historical thing as to where
it's
those
historical,
came from.
and it's. I'm certainly no expert on the CRTC. Who is? But this is what you say, broadcast, right? The public owns the airwaves, so because we own the airwaves as citizens, we have a body that represents us that is representing, what at least many people would argue are our interests in how those airwaves are used. And there's just I don't have any ownership stake as a citizen or any other way in Cineplex, right? So,
well,
there he is.
There are new ways. There's a new company coming in that's out of Calgary.
Yep.
That's like Netflix. They're gonna go head-to-head with Netflix in about a month.
And it's Canadian content, is it?
It's Calgary-based. It's called Zoe TV.
What's it called, sir?
ZOWEE TV.
We're going to throw it up on our Facebook page. I do have to take a quick break here, fellas. Bear with me. Folks, our half hour is nearly up. After this quick break, we'll wrap it up and ask our random question. Stay with us.
I think that when it comes to kind of the independent, whether it be filmmaking scene or art scene in Calgary, there just isn't enough attention for it. I think kind of this city focuses a lot on the oil and gas industry and the business side of it, and I think that people view Calgary as more of like a, you know, an up-and-coming, booming business, you know, city. But I don't think it gets enough recognition for the local artistry that's here. Personally, I've seen, you know, I've heard a lot of new artists. I've seen a lot of great independent films that have come right from our own city, but I think it gets overlooked too often. And with this new kind of cultural capital title that we've been crowned, I think that there's just more here than just oil and gas and business, and we need to really pay attention to the art side of it too, because it doesn't get enough recognition.
Now, Ben, you were saying, I want to hear more about this Canadian content streaming service. I think that's important to get the word out.
Well, it's a new TV service where they want a lot of Canadian content, and the NFB, I heard, is chipped in already with several hundred of their titles, and now they're looking for local producers, filmmakers, that we control the actual pricing of pay-per-view on there, or they'll just show it for free as well.
And the content's the main thing. Now, knowing this, Jonathan, not to put you on the spot, is this something that you think potentially you'd be interested in? I
am interested in any method that gets what I make to an audience and where I get any kind of fair price for it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Fair price is important.
I don't care if it's Netflix, if it's iTunes, if it's some kind of streaming service where I get paid per download or for an ad, or I don't care. I just need to know that I have a way of getting what I make to an audience and getting paid fairly for that. Because movies are not cheap, right? This is a tough business, and the irony is that all the people I know who are so active online are the kind of people who are really about the indie spirit and about being kind of anti-big corporation. But what happens when movies get pirated and is that because they're so expensive to make, it means really that the gap becomes you're either a major Hollywood blockbuster or you can't survive. So it's killing indie film. So I don't care what. I'd be great if it was Calgary based. It'd be great if it's Canadian based. I don't care if it's based out of Mumbai, as long as I get a fair slice and it gets me to my audience.
That's an honest, hey, that's fair. I appreciate that. But Stephen, what about promotion even for Calgary International Film Festival?
Well, I think that I'd be interested. It's not where our focus is right now in terms of those other kinds of distribution. I think something we'd like to look at down the road. I think film festivals run on a bit of a different kind of a fuel, at least partially, and that is that. And this is where maybe film festivals are a little different than just the art house movie question, because you can have a film festival thriving in a community and have the art house movie theaters dying. I mean, in the long-term picture, that's not going to be healthy for anybody. But there's a level on which we're social animals. We're pack animals. We
want to get out.
You don't just want. As much as you watch Netflix and download movies and rent them, you want to get out and be in a room with other people and actually have like shared emotional experiences with them. I don't think that that's like kind of a motherhood idea or like a nice idea. I think that's actually how we're wired. So we're not going to see people getting together in large groups and watching movies and experiencing other kinds of entertainment and activities go away. But it's a little easier when it comes to a festival environment where it's like a special celebratory time of the year. Yep. It's the 365 days that I'd be worried about.
Yeah. Well, that was a quick 30 minutes, fellas.
Yeah.
Folks, we want to thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully we have shed some light on what's indeed, we think, an important issue. As always, we want to hear from you. You're welcome to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. If you think you've got a good show idea, by all means, let us know. Thanks again and have a good night. Sorry guys.